at you. With us lying down upon each other's side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. And I remember standing tippy-toe, eye to eye next to you, sizing you up, I'm gonna tell you everything. Got another year and another guy and another guy and another year. Just don't many your eyes are so descriptive. And I don't need an interceptor telling me that you're so very afraid. With us lying down upon each other's side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. And I remember standing tippy-toe, eye to eye next to you, sizing you up, I'm gonna tell you everything. Got another year and another guy and another guy and another year. Just don't many your eyes are so descriptive. I don't need an interceptor telling me that you're so very afraid. With us lying down upon each other's side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side. Funny how it feels when the water's on the other side.
Because this craziness, this sickness in this country now is shot through the whole society. You know, people in law enforcement have also succumbed to right-wing extremism and white nationalism. Again, what this points up is how pervasive and vast a problem this is, and we will be dealing with it for a long time.
All right. Those are my buddies. I should probably switch so you can see who's talking. Hey everybody, it's me, Big Ugly Jim. It's been 2 weeks since last I was here visiting you. I'd like to tell you that I had some really amazing story of why I didn't stream last week, but in fact, I was hungover. I was up very, very, very late at a bar, DJing, and then just didn't get to bed at a reasonable hour. So here we are. I decided at the last minute that I was going to do it, and then I was like, dude, you're fucking tired. Come on. So yeah, did the right thing. Decided that it would be in my best interest to just get some rest. And I think I did the right thing. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing good. I've got half a cup of coffee. I believe the boy is going to brew me up some more. Because that's cold. Cold like my heart. Yeah, so it's been a couple weeks. My youngest child turned 18 like 3 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago we wound up going to, a week and a day ago, we wound up going to his first grown-up gig. And that was a bunch of fun. We went and saw Belvedere with My Buddy's Dead Pixel and Ghost Factory, Ghost Keeper, Ghost Tracker, I don't know. Ghost is a thing. Everybody likes to have Ghost in their name, to the point where, being a jerk, I thought it'd be hilarious to make a band called Amigo Fantasma, which is Spanish for ghost friend. Yeah, I don't know why I'm the way I am, but I am, and it's fun. Yeah, so hopefully everyone is doing well. Here in the great city of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, it is what they call fuck off cold. We've had a bit of a brutal stream the last little while. I don't think we're unique in this, but it's been shitty. Today's not so bad. I went out and I shoveled my walk, or more accurately, I ice chipped my walk, because shovels in Calgary are kind of, they're neat to a point, but where I live, because there's a really, really steady stream of traffic, pedestrian traffic, it's just, the minute it snows, it becomes compressed snow and ice, and it's just, the chipper's probably the easier way. Anyways, that's not important. I see I've got a couple people in chat. Any toe or any toe, and I am Canadian. My friend, how you doing, my friend? Kind of fuck off cold, yeah. Oh, it is all sorts of fuck off cold. I am Canadian. It's good to see you, my friend. And there's Lara Croft. So those are new names for me, and that's probably proof that I'm the single fastest growing streamer in the world, because when you go from nobody to 3 people, you're huge. That's like a infinite increase. I'm just kidding, of course. So if you are new to the stream, what I'll be doing, I've tripled my viewers. I have more than that, because it would be, if it was 300%, that meant, oh no, you're a viewer, so that counts. So yeah, it's 300%. I'm fucking awesome. I am a small streamer, Andy, which works just fine for me. This is not my goal to have a career as a streamer. I have a day job. I enjoy my day job to at least a certain degree, and I'm here just because it's fun. So hopefully you guys will have fun too. I'm wearing my Trash Talk t-shirt today. That's my buddy Nate Trash has a podcast that he does about the local Calgary music scene. So if that kind of thing's your deal, check that out. It's really good stuff. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I made notes. I always do this because I don't remember otherwise. But I got to click on this thing first so that I can see what's going on. What about the UCP fucks a gym? Oh, well, we can talk about the UCP fucks. If you're not from Calgary or the Greater Canada area, UCP is the United Conservative Party, which is essentially, it's a gathering of terrible people, and they are our leaders, because that's how Calgary do. I have noise in my chat, and it's like alerting. I don't know how the fuck to not have that happen. Do you guys hear that every time there's a chat message? I don't know. I'm going to keep my eyeballs on the... I have a feeling like you are. Anyways, UCP, United Conservative Party. A gathering of monsters that does not need to exist as far as I'm concerned. Oh, there's a notifications button. Maybe I can fix this. Turn off desktop notifications. Maybe that worked. I'm so tech. Awesome people, great leaders, amazing business people, and the caring about people in need and COVID is amazing. It genuinely it warms the cockles of my heart. You know, I've oft thought that conservatives might be a little more motivated by money, but if Jason Kenney has taught us anything, it's that I'm a fool, and that what they bring to the table is humanity. I'm of course kidding. They're fucking monsters. So everyone is aware that Omicron has been a thing for a couple weeks now. The to me the testimony of Omicron is perfectly summed up by the fact that last couple weeks ago when they were like, "Hey, there's an Omicron," and we were all stumbling over making the same Transformers joke over and over again. 3 weeks later, whatever, I don't know how long it's been a thing, but not terribly long. And there are 50 cases in Calgary. There's 200 overall COVID cases here. 50 of them are confirmed to be Omicron. And it took Delta a long time to get here. It took COVID a long time to get here, to the point where, you know, my Facebook feed was full of people going, does anyone even know anyone that's had COVID? Because people are stupid and obnoxious. So the fact that Omicron got here as quickly as it did and is already at 50, that speaks to the whole, you know, they're worried about the transmissibility for a fucking reason. So the UCP did the logical thing, and that was they were like, yeah, Christmas, that's Jesus' time. You should have all the Jesus time you want. The health minister or the health people are like, be careful. Be very careful. Don't travel. Don't fuck around. Don't do anything. Don't. And the government's like, or you could just, you know, have big gatherings. Have as many gatherings as you want. Unvaccinated people, you can gather too. Hell, everyone can gather because Jesus would want it that way. And I'm sure that's true, because Jesus is probably very lonely and probably wants a lot of new friends in heaven, which is what will happen. Now, I'm being facetious, of course. From all we've seen, Omicron is not as sketch as Delta. Delta was a lot more transmissible than previous COVID, but was also even shittier. Whereas Omicron is so far looking to be not as shitty, but way more transmissible. Now that's not good, and I'll explain why. When you have a thing that's super shitty, and it's, you know, it puts people in the hospital for long times, like that was a real concern. Delta in particular was like, fuck, we have to make sure that we have the appropriate resources to manage this thing. Whereas Omicron is like, it's a head cold, who gives a shit? Like, one person's died. Okay. That's a bad take. Because the thing is, with its insane level of transmissibility, that means that's really ripe for a lot of mutations, a lot of variations. Every time the virus replicates, it does a shitty job at it, and that's where we get variants from. When it replicates, it does so crappily, and things change on it. Something that is extremely transmissible is replicating a lot. This is not good. This is actually very bad. So this one might be a head cold, and we will approach it because we are fucking stupid. Like, oh my god, it's just a head cold. Who cares? I'm going to the bar and I'm doing horse. Probably not the wisest of choices, because that will blow up in our faces, and we will potentially have new variants that are super transmissible kind of resilient against the vaccine and more nasty to deal with. So the other thing is, they're saying it's I think they said it was like 30% of the likelihood of having problems. All I'm hearing is the radical left wants me to not be free. It's true. And it's not about people. It's about you. I am Canadian. I want you to not be free. Everyone else can gather at Christmas, just not you. But when you have this thing that they say is like, I think they said, and I'm bullshitting numbers here, but I think it was something like 30% of the likelihood of being in hospital and needing a hospital stay, which sounds great. The problem is the lady that I saw on the news last night, who was a evolutionary biologist, was saying that we're looking at like 10 times as many cases as what we've previously seen. And this was based on modeling based on what Alberta's current situation is and Omicron's transmissibility and all this other stuff. So I'm just going to punk up a calculator real quick. Our high, I think, was around 2,600. So that'd be 26,000. 26,000 active cases times, let's just say it's only 30% chance that you even get to the hospital. That's not fair. It was 30%. You know what? I'm not going to do the math. Suffice to say, when you have 10 times as many of a thing and you have, it's less likely to cause a problem, it's still a lot of fucking bodies in the hospital, and it's still a problem. What about the damn economy? Who's going to pay for all this? Pierre Poivre says you're trying to take away my guns too. The only reason I would take away anyone's guns is to have their guns. I like guns. I'm 100%. I may be a libertarian socialist, but I like guns. Guns are fun. I don't have a gun, and I will one day own guns, but I have children. They're of an age where they're probably smart enough not to use guns, but I don't want to find out. So until they move out of my house, I will not have guns. And then maybe I will. Maybe it'll be fun to have guns, be able to go to a shooting range and do the thing where you click and the bang bang happens and the holes appear in pieces of paper and you can feel like, fuck yeah, because that is fun. I enjoy the shit out of that. I have no desire to kill people. I have no desire to walk around with a gun or chew tobacco and spit. That's not who I am. Was that the UCP garbage that you wanted to talk about? But I think we can get the best gun policies on the planet by arming our Indigenous, Black, non-binary person, or every Indigenous, Black, non-binary person as quickly as possible with long guns. I don't disagree. If you look at the historically, California, we're all in the USA, no gun bans, no nothing. And they've got this conservative guy. What was his name? Ronald something. He was their governor, actor fella. And then the Black Panthers show up with guns, and all of a sudden, he's real focused on making sure that we don't have these people just walking around all willy-nilly holding guns. Where's the safety in that, right? So yeah, as soon as it's Indigenous, Black, non-binary, like anyone who doesn't have power walks around with a gun, it's an issue. You can see, there's videos on YouTube of two people walking, at different times with AR-15, one being a white man and one being a black man, and suffice to say, there is a subtle difference in the police response. It's just, you have to really look for it, but it's there, if you really dig deep. I'm kidding. It was awful. Yeah. That was it, man. Just revving up. Yeah, rev away, my friend. Always. Living in Calgary is an interesting time because we have this, we are a conservative place, and modern day conservatism is at least tacitly needing to, blow kisses to the super patriotic, insano conservatives and the alt-right and all the other shit. And as a result, we get these governments like Jason Kenney, our premier. I genuinely believe that he doesn't want to. He's got to know better than to say the things he says and to do the things he does, because he's not a dummy, but he's also not a dummy. He's not someone who's going to, just shits and giggles, not want to get reelected. So when the hogs come out and they start going, I don't want to wear masks, masks are freedom. He's like, dude, I hear you. We're not going to make a mask mandate. To the point where, here in Calgary, we made our own damn mask mandate, which made the hogs very angry, and they marched hogfully and did all their things and, coughed on each other. And the nice thing about Omicron is a lot of them will get head colds. So that's cool. I never thought I'd see the day I want Brian Jean to kick it. The one that screwed me up is fucking Doug Ford from Ontario, who is like a bunch of right wing. Doug Ford is like hard on the we've got to protect people. That I did not see coming. Like the Ford brothers were just skeevy fuck politicians, and I think that Rob Ford still is a skeevy fuck, but I am impressed. I'm surprised that he has taken this as seriously as he has taken it. That's cool. Jason Kenney is just not going to do that. He's not that guy who's going to kowtow to human decency. Doug Ford is still a dick, but an impressive one. Yeah, he's like not even like a long penis. He's a thick, weird green penis that you're like, I have not seen that before. I did not expect a thick green penis. When he's on point, he's excellent. When he's political, he's a fuck. And that's the thing. I really think that the people in the seats of power, they fucking know. They get it. They understand. They've got the epidemiologists and the virologists talking to them. They know all about what they're doing. They just don't actively care about it. And they know that, the way they're going to get reelected is appealing in this, post-Trump apocalypse nightmare we're living in, is appealing to the hogs and making sure that the hogs are well fed, because the rest of us, the progressives, we can't fucking come together on anything. And we don't get options for like decent candidates. Like, in our last municipal election, there was a Marxist Leninist who was running, but, nothing there. The person we elected, Jody Gondek, is, she's a shit lib. She's that boring brand of liberal. No change will happen. It's just another Naheed Nenshi in a different casing. That's all. Green penis, save the rat. Green penis is the anti-Greenpeace. They exploit the environment. Green penis movement. I like it. Explains the tool in O'Toole. Oh yes. And didn't O'Toole have a guy who was his like number two, whose name was like Shithouse or something, like Outhouse, something terrible like that. Yeah, Aaron O'Toole. I am very glad that he did not, win anything of note in the last election, the federal election. He's a monster. And the key is that we can see that he's a green penis, the Rob Ford, because we are rhombus men. We're not alphas, we're not sigmas, we're rhombi. And that is an important distinction. That was a thing that we were joking about last stream. It was fun. So yeah, the conservative politics in Canada is exactly like conservative politics in the U.S., but like as if it was somehow done by even worse people. And it's because I kind of think that in the States there's like a legitimate, those hogs have some power. I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene is faking it. I think she's very, very real. I don't think Matt Gaetz is faking it. I think this is the kind of people that can excel in the U.S. And I feel like it's less so in Canada that that's true, but we're kind of like trying to establish that. Like we've always been a little bit more laid back, a little bit more, we're light mayonnaise and not regular mayonnaise. And I feel like the there's a sense that like, you know, we should be more like them. We should have more patriot fighting and you know, terrorism and shit. Scary thing about those people is that they're always they aren't faking it. That's what that's the fucking scary bit. Yeah, it creeps me out. Like Matt Gaetz, actually, that's not fair. Matt Gaetz is faking it. Matt Gaetz he's a terrible person and a living piece of shit. But he's, in my opinion at least, he's not. He's probably faking all of the particulars of his opinions, but he really is that greasy. He really is the kind of, you know, like I went to school with a million guys like that were just like, hey, she's old enough to bleed, she's old enough to breed, and like just the fucking horrible douche bro jock mentality. You know, that Matt Gaetz does not come as a surprise. Which is also why I don't give a fuck if they die screaming naturally of COVID in their sleep. You know, there's a part of me, and it's a mean-spirited part of me that's like, maybe COVID is from Jesus, who I don't believe in. And maybe COVID's design is to, you know, get rid of stupid. Because really, like, you know, if you're a anti-mask person, like, I'm sorry that I'm about to, no, I'm not sorry I'm about to offend you. Not wearing a mask in a pandemic is stupid. Worst case scenario, if it did nothing, okay, we tried. You know, I did the thing that I could, that was in my power to do to try and not make the pandemic worse. That's good. Not wearing one, especially for reasons of the government wants you to wear one. Okay? Why? Because they're evil. I knew this guy, Bugadan, and Bugadan refused to wear his seatbelt. And his whole purpose for not wearing his seatbelt was the government put a law in that said he had to wear a seatbelt, and so therefore he wasn't going to do it because fuck the government. And I was like, dude, that is laughable. Like, if the government passed a law that said you have to breathe at least once a day, would you stop? And he's like, well, yeah. I mean, like, no, but, you know, like, I can't do anything about that. Hey, fella, did you make coffee?
Oh, fuck, sorry.
Oh, you're a terrible, terrible child, and I don't love you anymore.
I cut my forehead while I was doing tweezing, and so I was just dealing with that. Cause
It's a tweeze-related incident?
I was using my tweezers, and my hand just notched, and it literally just, like, stabbed in, and I was like, oh, shit, I just stabbed myself in the face.
Well, and the good news is that tweezers are super clean.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're going to have a hole in your face, you might as well, you know, put something dirty in there. Mm-hmm. You're okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. See, that's how you parent. When your kid puts tweezers in his face, you're like, don't do that. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like the whole thing, I feel like we're being tested. Like the Omicron thing is a great example where everyone's like, yeah, but it's like a head cold. That's even less than the, you know, fakeness that was all of the previous COVIDs. Now it just does nothing. We don't have to be afraid. And you know, I'm like, dude, first off, it's mostly only like a head cold. Sometimes it's like a whole bunch of fucking death. Second off, that, you know, the thing I mentioned earlier, just the sheer volume of fucking potential for mutation with something that spreads that quickly, that's a serious fucking problem. And do what we can. Like, fuck, I'm just not gonna be stupid. I'm not gonna do dumb things and win stupid prizes. I'm mostly healthy. You know, I'm a smoker and I'm kind of funny looking, but at the end of the day, like, I'm mostly a healthy person. I'm not scared that if I got COVID that I would become sick and die. I'm more scared, especially with this COVID, that I would get COVID, not know that why did my thing just disconnect? That's weird. Am I, like, not streaming on Twitch now? No, it says I'm connected. I don't know what the fuck just happened. Hopefully something good. Maybe I won a lottery. Shit. I can't remember what I was saying. I don't know. It was about COVID. And I'm almost tired of talking about COVID just because, like, fuck. It's been so long and so painful. I am Canadian. Am I still there? Do you still see me existing in time and space? Because I am. I still exist in time and in space. But I don't know, something seems to just happen with my chat, so I don't know if I'm still streaming. Looks like I'm still probably on YouTube because I've got that running on my phone. Meh. We'll just keep plunging on ahead. All right. I want to talk about the most terrifying concept that I have ever heard in my natural life. And I got a link that we can peruse together to talk about this. Speaking of the gentleman Matt Gaetz, the gentleman from the great state of being awful at every possible opportunity. Okay, so let me switch over so you can see what I see. And we have Republicans are still floating an insane scenario in which they make Trump House Speaker in 2023. And this one's on them. I'm ready for reading my first free article. A holiday say, oh, fuck off, Vanity Fair. I'm not giving you money. Hitchens is dead. I have no reason to care about you. There's a man. There's a man right there. Man with a... You had to reload the page? Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't see anything here. Like, oh, I do have some dropped frames. Something must have kicked up in my connection. I literally just my chat window was like, "You're disconnected. You're reconnected," and I was like, "Wait, what? The fuck is this?" So, anyways, I'm still here, and we're looking at the Donald. Last summer, while addressing a crowd in Iowa, Representative Matt Gaetz floated an absurd scenario even for him. A guy who has suggested people should purposely infect themselves with COVID-19. Discussing the 2022 midterm elections and the possibility that Republicans could take back the House, Gaetz mused that the GOP would turn around and install Donald Trump as Speaker, making him one of the most powerful people in the country without actually having to go to the trouble of being elected. Can you imagine Nancy Pelosi having to hand that gavel to Donald J. Trump? Gaetz, a cringeworthy Trump loyalist, asked the audience. I'm glad they're not, worried about editorializing at all. Cringeworthy, like he is. Don't get me wrong, but Vanity Fair, you even-keeled bastion of equality. She didn't like it when the January 6th guy was sitting in her chair in her office, he said, referring to the rioter who posed with his feet on Pelosi's. Why would someone not like that day? It must have been because someone was in her seat. Okay, anyways. She's sure not going to like seeing Donald Trump sitting in her chair. So I found that genuinely disconcerting. The idea that this is a thing that someone might want to do. The best thing about right now is that Donald Trump is kind of out of the public eye. He's got his little social media site that I think he's still running a social media site that no one goes to. And he occasionally appears on Fox News or some whatever, thing. But mostly we don't have to give a shit. And I'm great with that. When suddenly he is being mentioned as potentially the Speaker of the House in the U.S., that means he's going to be all over the fucking place. I can't get behind that. I don't want to see him anymore, except in funny images of him with his pants around his ankles, or something like that, because he's just, his day is over. They keep talking about 2024, Trump is going to be president again. Dude, in 2024, he's going to be so broken down and decrepit. I would say that he wouldn't want it, but oh yes, he will want it. He just won't get it because his body is not going to hold up to the test of time. It's not like Diet Coke and McDonald's are the secret to a good, healthy life. I don't know what these people are thinking. Matt Gaetz, obviously, Matt Gaetz is just one of these people who's just that guy's got a plan. He's got a golden plan to have power, and I want to have power, so I'm just gonna stand next to him and look pretty. say the right things and do the right things. And, you know, yay for you, Matt Gaetz. You fucking chud. I don't know. Maybe I'm bitter. It's happened before. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. That was weird. My stream just, like, decided not to be a stream for a second. I mean, I don't know. Either way, I think it's just you and me. I am Canadian. There's a couple of names that are also in my list that are watching, but I don't know if they're, like, actually watching or not. It's hard to know. If you're there and you're real, you should say hi in the chat, because the world is full of bots. And I don't get the hate raids, but I do get a lot of, like, random bots. So that's a thing that I get. I'm very excited about. On a similar note, speaking of people who want to pretend that they're Donald Trump, which is the thing that I never thought I would have to say as a grown-ass adult, Florida man to be next president. What the fuck is wrong with the world? Trump 2024 may be Junior, not your fired fuckface. Yeah, well, that is a distinct possibility, but God help us. Like, Donnie Jr. is such a... Like, I can't... There's not even words for how skeevy... From the moment I first saw him, I was like, wow, that's a handsome-ish, but not, like fetal alcohol handsome, person with obvious wealth and no humanity. And so, yeah, that does sound like the next president. Hopefully not. But yeah, Florida man Ron DeSantis, who clearly is looking for poising himself to be the candidate in 2024. I didn't get a chance to chat about this last week because I was off with the hangover. But apparently he wants to be creating a militia. My immediate reaction to that was like, oh my God, that's insane. And then I dug in a little bit and I realized that, in fact, it's actually, like there's a bunch of states that have militias that are like the National Guard, but not the National Guard. So it's not like he's, breaking any ground here. But anything Ron DeSantis does is scary, scary shit. I legitimately think he's... Like Monster doesn't even begin to cut it. He is... What is the best way to put it? If you spent your whole life loving, let's say, the Zodiac Killer, and you decided that you needed to do all the things the Zodiac Killer did in order for you to, to be comfortable with who and what you are, and then you did those things, you'd probably go way whole hog and do them even bigger. That's what Ron DeSantis is. He's like the next version of Trump, but even more sinister. Thank you. I'm getting coffee delivered. You're like the Uber Eats of being in my house and filling up my coffee.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. And I'm not paying you.
Yeah, I was going to ask for a tip.
I'll give you a tip. Don't take any non-fungible tokens. Oh, man. Yeah, so DeSantis thing, I do kind of appreciate the idea of, a 4-year stretch where every time we talk about the president, it's Florida man bans travel from, Muslim countries. Florida man creates new Space Force, I think that's the one thing Trump was missing, was just being called Florida man, because otherwise he was a Florida man. DeSantis, dude, how can this even be considered a viable, serious thing? The guy, literally, his entire state is a smoldering dog pile of death and destruction because he refuses to do anything to help anyone. Who does he think he is, Ted Cruz? And this is someone that apparently, I heard some stat that was they were floating names for who should run in 2024, and DeSantis apparently did better in the Republican polling than Trump. And if that's the case, I think Biden, if he is smart, will not try it for a second term. I really do feel like, he's doing a margarine job right now, and way to go. But yeah, he should not be the leader of the free world. And I feel like he probably is going to, be questioning whether or not it's worth it in 2024 to run. I hope that somebody else runs. I hope that it's somebody cool, unlike Biden. And having them run against Ron DeSantis might not be a terrible thing, because they can just make the Florida man joke a bunch. And yeah, you'll piss off Florida. But Florida, I kind of feel like Florida would be like, that's mean to say, but I mean, it's true. But don't mean you need to say it. Don't mean that at all. I don't know. The whole thing, like everything, is so troubling right now with the world in the state that it's in. I don't know. Let's see, what else is I gonna bring up? Oh, thank goodness there's no climate change. So that's that's cool. We haven't had massive flooding all through BC in unseasonably wiping out massive roadways and the struggle to rebuild now. And apparently turkeys in Alberta are harder to find than usual because of the damage to the driving routes between the interior of BC and Calgary. So that's a thing. My ex-wife, I have to go over to my ex-wife's house for Christmas. And that is something I'm excited about. But so she managed to get a turkey, and I don't know, she called me this morning with joy in her heart about getting a turkey and getting a good deal on it. But she's my ex-wife. I don't want her to have joy in her heart. I don't even want her to have a heart. That's much better. Thank you, Seth.
Welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about the Kellogg strike, because that is sort of the one outstanding bit of oddity that continues to go. And oddity. I'm sorry. I'm half brain dead today. It's one of the things that we had this burst of great worker strike stories. And again, I am a socialist. I'm all for workers having rights and power. So that's a thing that you're just gonna hear from me now. Kellogg's is the last holdout. And they're doing some stuff that I think is fascinating in terms of how they are approaching this. So there's kind of a vibe they're doing. Hang on one sec. Yeah, that's the price you pay when you're a smoker. They're kind of like they have this vibe like they're gonna try and starve out the union. They're trying to hire scab labor. And somebody was talking in the media about this, and they were talking about how what is the name of the place they're in? Battle Creek, Michigan. Battle Creek, Michigan is a place where Kellogg's is like the only game in town. It's not the only game in town, but they are the best paying employer, and they're kind of like, hey, well, you don't want to work for what we're offering you. You can find another fucking job here in Battle Creek, Michigan that'll pay you less. And that's true. They do have a position of power in that regard, because their staff are used to a certain level of income and blah, 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 blah. And it's also true that, you can argue that the whole union is being silly because, there are all kinds of people in Battle Creek who would lovingly take those jobs. And that's also, not incorrect. But I want to say something about that. The point of a union is not about making sure that you can, eke out a subsistence. The point of a union is about protecting workers. At least that's the point of all unions that don't involve the words police, and all unions that are not shitty and corrupt. Because I'll admit there are shitty and corrupt unions in the world. But Kellogg's is making record profits. Like everybody else, they are gaming the system like fucking nuts. And it's paying off for them. And then they're going, yeah, we're going to scale back on your, what we're offering you. And we're going to create this division of like, okay, you guys get these things, but all the new people will get a less good healthcare plan, less good, this, that, and the other thing. And those offers that they're making are probably better than anything you could get in Battle Creek, Michigan right now. But that doesn't change the fact that they're getting record profits based on the work of their workers. That's their job. Their whole thing as a corporation is to extract as much wealth as they can from their labor. And I get that, and I'm not going to say don't do it. But there's a line. Just because every other job in I keep wanting to say North Battleford, which is in Saskatchewan, just because there's shitty paying jobs in Battle Creek, Michigan, doesn't mean that people aren't entitled to a larger share of the work they're doing that you're profiting from. And certainly when you're talking about screwing over the next group of hires, which is essentially my understanding of what Kellogg's is trying to pull. They're basically saying like, okay, you guys have all this stuff and we'll do that. But anyone we hire from now on will have a second tier that we apply to those people, and they'll get, less. It's still good. It's still good. Don't you worry. But, just less. That's, union solidarity is all about protecting all of. Dropping in and out. Is my stream dropping in and out, or is it me, or is it you? I don't know what you're saying. Do I have stream issues? It looks like I have the same number of drop frames, so hopefully you're saying you're dropping in and out. In which case, yeah, love you. Yeah, the whole point of solidarity is not just we need to make sure we're looked after, but that we're looking after the workers, because no one else is going to fucking do it. We live in a world where the U.S. has two political parties that both are certain that they're the party of the workers, and yet the workers just keep getting the fucking stick. Time after time, inflation goes up, wages do not. Wages either stagnate or go down. Minimum wage doesn't increase unless there's like a serious legislative push for it. Where I live, minimum wage is $15 an hour. It probably should be more than that as the cost of living continues to increase. And we had to argue for that, and we had to fight for that. And I'm kind of surprised we got it. We only got it because we voted a one-time accidental whoopsie. We wound up with a decent government in the NDP. And then immediately went, wait a second, the world is better. We need to stop that. Let's bring back the conservatives, who are now talking about fucking like rare earth mining in our province, which rare earth mining is like the worst kind of mining. I'm sure it'll be okay. I'm sure everything will be. We don't need woods or trees or mountains or animals. We can just have money. Money's better. When was the last time a bear made you breakfast? Anyways, so yeah, like I just found it really fascinating, this approach they're taking of offering this like tiered system to their workers, and then being like, hey, we're other people want these jobs if you don't want them. It's it's classic union busting, but in kind of a new and special way, and that's unfortunate. I want for businesses to do better. As a like I say I'm a libertarian socialist, but I recognize that A socialist libertarian world is just not a thing we could do right now. So we're making the best with what we got. And, you know, capitalism's going to be here. So let's try to make it as ethical and reasonable as possible and make sure that since the invisible hand does not regulate the marketplace, and laissez ain't so fucking fair, let's do that thing where we force people to look after each other. And yeah, I said force. I mean like the big government. Because everyone's for big government when it's the things they want. I am no different. I know I'm just as hypocritical when I say I'm a libertarian socialist and then go, you know what? The government needs to do this. Yeah, that's big government. That's adding to the size of government. And I get it. To me, I feel like there's an important balance that needs to be had between my ideals and the world that I want to live in and the country, the kind of morals and values that we have, that we can't just pretend like everyone's going to have them suddenly. So, you know, and it's just a thing. I'm sorry, I'm going to cough again. It's super dry here in Calgary, and my house is super dry. I'm trying to drink coffee. It's not the vid. It's this is my life all winter. Anyways, fuck Kellogg's. Fuck all the brands that Kellogg's owns. And stand up for workers, because no one else is doing it. It's unions and it's consumers when the consumers do it. Because sure as shit isn't the management. If management could get away with paying absolutely nothing, they fucking would. We have laws against slavery because they fucking would. And in the case of, you know, certain parts of the United States, they did. But like child work child labor laws and things like that, we have these in place because industry is like, yeah, we will fuck you. And industry is motivated to do that. And that's, as long as you understand that at the end of the day, that's, you know, we have competing interests. Business's goal is always to increase capital and to make, you know, extract as much value from labor as possible. That's an okay thing as long as there's balance. I would rather see all the value go to all the people and blah, 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 and isn't life perfect? But that's not the world we're living in right now. So let's make the best of what we got and work towards getting to the place where we'd like to be. And on that very optimistic socialist note, I'm going to take a break. And I will put on some fancy dancy music. Electronic music of my own invention that is both terrible and horrible. And of course I forgot to set up which audio device I'm using. Why would I not? We'll try that one. And hopefully I've had challenges with my my Reaper output of late, so we'll see if it works. What shall I put on? This one. And I will be back in just a few minutes. Just make sure that's, yep, that's coming in. It's not doubling up. No, it's good. Okay, I will be back. I should probably unmute my mic before I turn off the music. Anyways, I'm back. It's good to be back. It's also good to be me. So that's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the recent controversy. I have to pull something out of my pocket. Sorry. The recent controversy surrounding streamers Vaush and Vaushsan, and the use of a terrible word which I will not use because it is a word of hurtfulness. I'm kidding. It's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. They used a word that starts with C and rhymes with tracker. I said tracker in case anyone at Twitch is watching, ready to axe my account. They said that horrible word. Now, Vaushsan said it, and Hassan's use of it was very much. It was used in a aggressive pejorative, whereas Vaush was, I think, a lot more like just continuously using the word and being like, "This is so stupid," and it is genuinely stupid. And I'm going to explain my thoughts on the word and all of this. And it's probably going to ramble quite a bit because that's what I do. That's what I bring to the table. So I am a white person. And white people, you're going to get some what? Oh, I can't. I can use it in that context. I am Canadian. I'm hungry. Gonna get some crackers. Yes, crackers are a fine idea when you're hungry. Not when you're really hungry, but when you're just, a little bit around the edges, it's a fine choice. Unrelated to that, the controversy, the Voldemort of words, he who shall not be named. I just think first off, let me just say, I support the idea of Twitch having its own terms of service. They're pretty much unmanageable, and like I just got banned on YouTube for a week. I'm back now, but I got banned on YouTube because I'm assuming somebody reported an old video of mine where I was not kindly referring to the parent of one of the Parkland shooting survivors, who decided that he would tell his child that his child was a crisis actor and that nothing had actually happened. That's pretty fucking horrifying that any father would do that. And apparently that was cyberbullying for me to talk about. And so I lost my account for a week. Not lost my account, but lost the ability to stream or upload videos or anything. And whatever. I made it through. I did not cry much. So, terms of service are important, but they're also kind of silly because they get into the pedantic, where do you draw the line? And I'm going to talk about that because last time I streamed, I had this conversation with I Am Canadian, and I'm going to answer that question today because I've thought about it. So the use of that word, people are arguing whether or not it's actually a racist word. And the answer is, yeah, it's racist in the sense that there's a bunch of different ways of thinking about racism. The most functional from a understanding racism as a problematic thing in the world is to look at racism with power. It's just a word. Yeah, it's just a word. And I can use any word. I could say Philistine, and I can say it in such a way that it is a pejorative. I could say you're a puppy lover in a way that's an attack on you as a person. There's context and there's everything else, and there comes a point where words are it's a dumb thing. It's a word that is in response to another word that depicts onyx with a hard R. Depicts onyx. don't know what you mean. I know what word you mean, obviously, but yeah. Here's the thing about these words is that racism is real. Racism, when looked at with the concept of power dynamics and stuff, is a really serious problem, and systemic racism is very much a thing that we have to work through and work on and do better at. 100% cool. I'm not in any way saying it's not the case. However, it's also true that there is a way of looking at racism that is based on these actions are directed at someone of a particular racial group. So in that regard, that word is racist. It just lacks the punch of having no power behind it. Now then there's the question of can you be racist against the majority? And I feel like you can. I look at groups like the Hoteps, who I would say are probably dangerous and probably not awesome. And they are very much a racist group against white people. I don't like that. Onyx is the new Ebony, as in Onyx level Air Miles card or Onyx level MasterCard, where Onyx is the epitome of privilege and finance, kind of an ally thing for corporate America. I didn't know anything about that. I'm more of an Offix than an Onyx, unfortunately, which makes sense because I'm also not corporately American. But yeah, I really think that there is a strong difference between, there's different kinds of racism and different ways that racism is used in a sentence. And that word is racist in the sense that it is a word targeted to a particular race. If you can qualify white people as a race, which you probably can't, because that race just keeps on changing what its boundaries are. And really, it's sort of the opposite of a race, because it's everybody that isn't in one of these groups we're poking fun at. Not we, you know what I mean. When we get bunged up about the word that was used, what do we get out of it? Probably not a whole fucking lot. There's not a whole lot of benefit to coming down on someone for using that word, especially the latter instance, where Vaush was just repeating the word and talking about how silly this all was, because it's silly. So can the word be used as a terrible thing? Probably. I can't imagine a scenario where that word would cause me pain, or any of the words used to describe people of my race would cause me any pain. That said, it could be used in a context by people who I would be scared of or whatever, and that's a different argument. That's a completely different monster. I just don't see them as the same thing. And I look at the whole story of when Twitch reacted. My take on it is that Twitch did the thing where they were like, oh, we're always getting told that we favor the left wing and that we're going against the right, and now we have a chance to show, wave our flag and go, see, we're neutral. That's all it feels like to me, is just this performative, like, no, man, like, we don't take sides. He said a bad word too, so we're suspending him or banning him or whatever. Like, it's silly. And I don't think Twitch did themselves any favors. I think they look ridiculous. And, prove me wrong. But really, it's a funny time to do it, and it's a funny pair to do it too, because Hassan is arguably one of the most successful Twitch streamers. Vaush, lesser, but still quite a successful streamer, who has made a career not needing Twitch. He was banned on Twitch for a very long time, and that has not changed. If he gets banned, it's not gonna slow him down. It'll affect his income on Twitch, but I'm sure people will find other ways to view him. It's a non-thing. So the concept of what this is all about, in my opinion, is about kowtowing to right-wing people who are constantly whining about the fact that they get canceled for actually using horrible words that have that systemic power behind them and that are used in a much more meaningful, effective manner than the words that we're talking about. And so this feels very performative and very stupid and very empty and very worthless. So congratulations, Twitch. You're now super neutral. Aren't you cool? But it brings up, it brings up questions. All of a sudden people are like, is there such a thing as reverse racism? Yes, absolutely. And I'll explain that. Reverse racism, when you're using the one definition of racism, is a nonsensical concept. It's just racism. When you're talking about the other definition of racism, where power is a component, then yeah, absolutely, it's a thing. Because it is a specific kind of racial attack that is, attack, in giant quotes, that is from the people who are the victims of racism towards their oppressors. So that's very much a real legit thing, and pretending it's not is silly. This is where words kind of fail us, because I'll give you a completely unrelated example. I was watching Boston Legal because I am a dork, and I found out that it was on Disney Plus, and I was like, ooh, Boston Legal, I love that show. So I've been watching it, and there was a arc that they did with the guy who played Poet in the TV show Oz, who I love as an actor. I think he's great. And his character was among other things, was a convicted sex offender, and the sex offense that he'd been convicted of was he was 17, his girlfriend was 15, or whatever the particulars were. And, people were unable to see past, they just saw that he's a convicted sex offender, and they were like, he must be dangerous, we must remove him from our world. And I feel like we do this thing where we come up with a word, and then we lean into all of the edge cases on the word. So, using the example of sex offender, there's a world of difference between a 17-year-old kid and a 15-year-old kid having sex that's consensual and agreed to, versus someone who is a serial rapist. Yet they're all convicted sexual offenders. Likewise, I saw a conversation between Dylan and Aircraft Sparky. I watched it this week, and it was dumb because Aircraft Sparky kept talking about how, I guess he'd said something about how the gay community has pedophiles in it, which is silly because every community has pedophiles in it, because pedophiles don't subscribe to a particular ideology above and beyond pedophilia. And then he brought up that, and I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote the paper, but where the concept of MAP comes from. And I've never really paid attention to this. I assumed it was some stupid conservative, we're just gonna make a meme out of this. It turns out there was a legitimate thing. The guy who came up with the idea is a doctor of, I think, sociology or something. I don't recall what, but a learned person of that field, and basically was saying we need to use the term minor attracted person, or MAP, as a way to remove the stigma. Not about like, hey, let's just remove the stigma of pedophilia. Pedophilia is still bad in his world, but if you are struggling with being attracted to children because there is something gross inside your brain, having to go to a doctor and saying like, I'm a pedophile, is, it paints a very different picture than someone who is struggling with being attracted to children. And his whole argument was, if we come up with a term that is more useful for that kind of a scenario, for where someone wants to get help. Like there's a Netflix show, I think, that was up in, or maybe it's, no, it was Canadian, maybe it's a CBC show, I don't fucking know. It was like iPedophile, I think, was the name of the program, and it was about people who would be probably best described as maps as opposed to pedophiles, because they do not act on their sexuality, but they find themselves attracted to minors and are trying to, live in the world and not be fucking pedophiles. So the whole point of this was that the word is a broad spectrum, and it's probably worth chunking that out into having a word to describe the feeling and a word to describe the action. So the whole point the person was making was like, not that pedophilia was okay or that we need to just sort of normalize the idea of it. It was that we need to come up with a method by which people can feel comfortable seeking help for a problem, and not go down the road of hiding in shame and all of this stuff. Now, I don't know how real that concept is. I don't know how effective it would be. I don't really think that people who, by and large, people who are pedophiles are probably not thinking, oh, I should probably get help with this. I think they're pretty fucking broken, and probably, I'm not going to stand up and be like, wait, let's hear them out. But yeah, where was I fucking going with that? Holy shit, told you I was going to ramble. We do this thing with words where we try to create a term, and then we stretch and poke all the way through. So racism is a lot of different things. And in some contexts, racism can be as simple as calling someone that terrible word. And in some contexts, racism can be a much bigger, much more power-based dynamic. Both are valid, but they mean different things, and we get in fights over them. When people say there's no such thing as reverse racism, what they mean is that it's racism. And again, if we're talking about definition number one, where racism is just people who, are doing an action or holding a belief that's based on the race of the other person, then yeah, it is just racism. But if you use the definition of racism with power associated, then reverse racism is kind of the opposite. It's racism without power associated. And then we get all schnozzled about it. Where was my notes about this? I took great notes about this, and I can't seem to find them. Here we go. Yes. So, to me, it is, the whole thing is dumb. Vaush got permanently banned off of Twitch. Hassan got a week-long ban, which is funny to me because, yes, the number of times Vaush used the word was much greater, but the direct pejorative use of the term was much more on Hassan. And I feel like this is a scenario where it's more, this is where they're kind of tipping their hat, because Hassan makes them a lot more money. So, temporary ban for Hassan. Vaush they lived without for a long time. Fuck it. Vaush doesn't need to be, we can just get rid of him. And it looks like they're taking a stand for fairness and equality, when in fact, they're just being pedantic. If somebody referred to me by any of these kinds of words, the word that they got banned for, or colonizer's another one that, when I first got called colonizer, I'll tell you, I was like, hey, wait, what? That's not fun. And then I had to think about it and be like, yep, that actually holds water. I don't like that it holds water, and there's work I need to do, but it holds water. But these are not words that hurt me. They're not words that can, make me live in fear. To equate, in a terms of service, to equate those words with the words that we typically ban, fascists for. Ain't the same thing. And this leads me to the conversation that I Am Canadian and I had a couple of weeks ago about where do you draw the line. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because we're bad at drawing the line, especially when we're talking about imposing legislation or government or whatever into one of these conversations. We get into some sketchy territory, right? So I had said something, I don't recall what we were talking about, but I had said something about, and that kind of speech should not be allowed. I am not a free speech absolutist. And I Am Canadian was quick to point out, where do you draw the line? Well, I think that we are clever enough to be able to come up with a method for navigating that, right? So if I say, punch a Nazi, and somebody hears that and goes out and punches a Nazi, first off, good job. And second off, if there's going to be consequences for me, I can accept those, provided that they're, reasonable consequences. Whereas if Alex Jones says that, the Democrats are a secret cabal that have a pizza shop that they're, harvesting the adrenochrome from their sex slave children in, and this pizza parlor is in Washington and the blah, 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 and then someone goes in with a gun to that pizza parlor, those are very different things. Essentially, the same crime was committed, but we must be able to have a sliding scale where there's some ability to figure out, right? When we try and come up with a hard and fast rule, we fail. Because, okay, let's say we make a rule right now, and we say, okay, you can't use the word that Hassan and Vaush used. You can't use that hard R word. You can't use, these 56 words. All that's going to happen is that the people who would want to use those words will just come up with new ones. That's kind of what they do. And so you'll have to amend the law to include those words. Or then you go, okay, you know what? Let's go with the meaning of words. And that's where you get into this whole debate that we're in, is that word probably wouldn't have been on anyone's top of the list. And yet when it was used, somebody is, the argument is, well, it's a word just like these ones, so it should be, a similar comeuppance for having used it. And no, because it's not like those words, because it lacks punch. It lacks power. The only way someone could use that word to cause me any kind of a reaction, in my opinion, from my experience, would be if there was actually physically some threat associated with it. Like if I was, for example, out in the wild, wild world and someone was using that word and they were getting in my face. But that's not the word that's causing me the fear. It's the getting in my face part that's causing me the fear. And I think that's a reasonable thing. I think we can, as a society, we can come up with a sense of what kind of communication, especially when we're talking about things like stochastic terrorism, where we can see that lines got crossed. When Trump says, we're gonna go down and we're gonna march on Congress, and we're gonna make sure that they do what we told them to do. That those words there was nothing about them that would guarantee a riot, but there was a lot about them that would plant that seed, and that seed came to fruition. That's something we should be able to react to as a society. When the Alex Jones folks say Pizzagate shit, and somebody goes out and puts other humans at risk because of this mistaken thing that they believe, we should be able to react to that. And it's, it's sketchy and it isn't clear, but there's got to be a way to establish intent, to establish viability of outcome, and any number of different categories that can factor into a reasoned decision that says, okay, Jim said punch a Nazi, someone punched a Nazi, Jim, you get a $50 fine. Also, Nazi got punched. And then someone who, Alex Jones, who uses his words to promote things that can lead to real problems, that's a more severe thing. It's not a perfect answer, but I feel like, we have different degrees of murder, ranging from, accidental, negligent homicide, manslaughter, and there would have been at some point in some part of human society where somebody was like, yeah, but if, of course no one wants to have a serial killer. That's terrible. But like, what if you go to war? What if you're killing for war? Is that, because that's a thing that we've always done. And you go, well, yeah, like that wouldn't be. Well, where do you draw the line? Well, the answer is you probably have to draw a few lines. You probably have to come up with a bit of a framework that defines what is and isn't okay. I don't like the idea of free speech being pushed down on, but I recognize that there is a need for free speech to be pushed down on in circumstances. If my speech leads to somebody being killed, that's a bad thing. If my speech leads to, something genuinely awful happening, there should be consequences. And we should be able to grade those on a scale and say, Jim said this thing was not as big a deal versus this thing which led to a riot is a bigger deal. I don't know. I just don't think it's wrong. Jim, who decides? Free speech is not freedom from consequences. Check. Yeah, absolutely. But we act like it's freedom from consequences. This is the thing that I keep saying, is that freedom comes with responsibility. And when we don't meet the responsibility of our freedom, there has to be consequences. Who decides? I think that is, we have a government that needs to come up with legislation. And that legislation then needs to go through the same process that we would have done for murder, where we go, okay, this doesn't qualify as murder, and somebody else goes, but it should, so let's tweak that rule. The problem is the simpleton-minded way it's expressed without context. Yeah, absolutely. No one would argue with freedom of speech. It's a concept. Yeah, freedom of speech is, and I think it's vital. I think that suppression of speech, when we're talking about a government preventing their people from exercising this right that we have to say, no, I don't agree with you, versus the edge cases. Again, we're talking about where that line gets blurry between I'm using my words and I'm using my words to cause destruction. But if Jim says kill someone and someone kills after hearing it and was triggered by the words, then Jim, you're fucked. Context is God. It's if freedom is king, context is God. Absolutely. And Lizzo is the goddess. I don't know. I just needed to say something there. So yeah, my answer to the question of who decides is ultimately it starts at a legislative level. It probably starts with legislators getting direction from their people to try and understand what is the norm of the society that we want to promote, right? When I say that, what I mean is, let's say we had a conservative government, total majority conservative leadership, and the conservative leadership said, well, the only word that will be a bad word is the word that Hassan used. Yes, it starts with leaders. Legislation is what leaders develop. But the chicken shit, mealy-mouthed assholes aren't leaders, they're politicians. I agree, and I think that it comes, like when I look at the Democrat Party, for example, their legislation that comes from leaders isn't from Joe Biden. It's from people like Bernie and people like AOC. There are no bad words, and that's the problem. And that's why I don't want to outlaw words. I want to not outlaw, but I want to impose consequences for the use of words to a particular end. Words aren't the issue. The issue is intent, feelings, bad things, not the word. Guns don't kill people. Assholes with guns do kill people. I agree. Like I say, that word doesn't hurt my feelings. But that doesn't mean that, like Twitch was right to do what they did. This should lead to legislation controlling assholes and to control assholes who need control guns, or we need control guns. I'm a little confused. Can you clarify what you mean by that? Ultimately, what I'm talking about puts a lot of power in the wrong hands, and that's why we have a system of multiple levels of government, so that it would be up to the judiciary to enforce, and it would be up to lawyers to push those edge cases and to do that kind of stuff that challenges the law and tests the rule and results in maybe multiple rules, like we have premeditated murder versus crimes of passion versus accidental murder versus manslaughter versus all this stuff. Yes, absolutely. Words can be innocuous. The same words can be used as weapons, and I totally agree. And I'm saying exactly that. Philosophy Tube's example of "I love you" is an example of words that those words don't have a hateful context, but can be used in a hateful way, and that's the thing that is ultimately important. When we're talking about, it is free speech for me to make death threats according to like a free speech absolutist, but we don't think that that's okay. Stalkers use free speech. That's not okay. At the end of the day, we're dictating what behaviors are acceptable, and sometimes you have to manage the behaviors by saying bad word, and that's where we're circling down the drain. You Trisket. I am a Trisket. In fact, I'm more of a Breton myself. I have a little sesame oil in there. But yeah, no, I agree. And I think we're both sort of agreeing on the gist of it. And that is that, like, I don't want to come up with a list of banned words. I want to come up with a list of times where behaviors lead to negative outcomes that we can curtail, and that those behaviors are as clearly defined as we can, with some room for mistakes will be made, and more importantly, we will need to tighten those controls. It ain't a list of bad words that legislators should focus on. Totally agree. The whatchamacallit, what's his name? I love him. He's a comedian. He's funny. The 6 things you can't say on the radio. My brain is empty. You know exactly who I mean. That guy was right. Those 6 words you can't say on the radio. And yet, anytime you say these are the 6 words you can't say, I'll find you 7 through 12. And a good example of that is the OK symbol being perverted by the Proud Boy white power freakos into a symbol of white pride. Like, you can't, it doesn't matter what the hand gesture is, it doesn't matter what the word is, it doesn't matter any of it. What matters is the context and the meaning behind it. George Carlin, yes, fuck. You're a lovely fucking man, Jim. You're a fucking man, Jim. Lovely. I love when commas are used incorrectly. Like, I saw a meme the other day, and it was involving fucking your father versus fuck you, your father, something along those lines. It was pretty awesome. The wishy-washy lack of leadership, and ultimately no one wants to take a stand and create actual viable legislation on this because of a combination of it's bad optics. The chuds will always freak out when you talk about limits on speech, even though what we're talking about is limits on behavior. That are going to directly coincide with actual problems. Like, we have this situation where somebody is stalking somebody, and that behavior is not illegal until the person crosses the line. So someone who's being stalked contacts the police, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm being stalked," and the police are like, "What have they actually done?" It is not illegal to sit outside of your house. It is not illegal to text you every 10 minutes saying, "I love you." None of these things are illegal. So you can't do anything about it. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to the difference between expecting a series of events or individual words or whatever the case may be versus defining the kinds of behaviors that are problematic. Don't be a colon about it. Be a semicolon, okay? I was joking the other day, and I said something about my smelling my semicolon. It was I'm a horrible person. Anyways, I think that's kind of what I was going for, and when I wanted to have this conversation about the the question of limiting free speech and stuff. It's not really about limiting free speech. It's about limiting bad behavior, which all of our laws are intended to do, except for those that are intended to just, shit on people. And again, was it wrong of Hassan and Vaush to use that word? I don't think so. Was it wrong of Twitch to ban them? No. Performative, but probably not wrong. I'm reading a book. Oh, right on, man. I also read books from time to time. Yeah, first they came for our crackers, and then they came for our mayonnaise, and then they came for our gray meat, and no one was around to stop them. That might just get me banned. I hope not, because clearly I was going with jokes, but we'll see. Better Always by Karen Cadlin. I'm not familiar with it. Is it what's my definition of allyship? Oh, that's a I'm the worst person to ask that question, but I will answer it. I think allyship is supporting, in the context that we're talking about, it's like supporting people who are less powerful or of the same kind of power level as us. And by supporting, I mean actively doing things to try and level the playing field, being an ally, right? If you think about it in the like World War II sense, allies went to war even though the war wasn't directly about them, right? Canada went to World War II even though it was a European war because we were British allies. And I think ally in the context that we're talking about is like that. So when I have friends who are people of color who are experiencing things that are unfairsies, that I don't experience, I go to war for them or with them as an ally, if that makes any sense. But that's probably a terrible definition of allyship because I don't know what the definition would be. You say yep, so I'm assuming you're yepping that it's a terrible definition. Actually, I'm kidding. I bet it's because I'm brilliant. And I think there's also, the concept of allies, again, is a spectrum of behaviors. So a lot of people think that not using the hard R word is being an ally. Other people thinking, standing up at a Black Lives Matter protest is being an ally. The truth is that I don't want to say this is the cutoff point where this behavior is not ally, this behavior is ally. But it is, in my opinion, ally involves action and not just words. Allyship is a process. I like that. I think that we don't do ourselves a very good service when we use terms like allyship to describe just, the bare bones of not being shitty to other people. I know people who consider themselves allies who don't leave their house and don't stand up, and don't do anything. And if things got worse, would not change that. Liberals often will talk about being allies. Then there is the P word. I'm assuming you don't mean process or procedure or protocol or power. You are white, you are male, you are straight. Absolutely. I am all of those things. Privilege. Oh, there's so many fucking P words. Yeah, I absolutely have privilege. And I have privilege because I'm male. I have privilege because I'm white. I have privilege because I'm straight. I have privilege for a myriad of reasons. And all of them sort of blend together into an overall amount of privilege that I have, which given the various adjectives used to describe me, I have a lot of privilege. But I am another important P word, and that's poor. And I'm also a weirdo. So these things reduce my privilege, but not substantially compared to if I had, for example, black skin, or I liked to have sex with people of my same gender. Two examples of ways that adjectives that could be applied that would much more greatly reduce my privilege. This is where people like me often have a real hard time, because if you've grown up poor and you're white and you're like, well, so what? My life was fucking easy. I'm privileged because, I grew up poor. Like, fuck you. Where in fact, yeah, you did, because some of the things that some of the terrible things that happened to you wouldn't have been anywhere near as bad as if they had happened to you and you were indigenous or, whatever. And those are privileges. We don't think of privilege in terms of like the terrible shit that happens to us is less terrible than if we had, been somebody else. Allyship, possibly everyday actions to create inclusive, engaging culture. Yes, in the context of sort of, for want of a better term, wokest allyship. But one could argue that, liberal types often act as allies to white nationalists because of the free speech thing. And they are allies, but they're certainly not creating an inclusive and engaging culture. So allyship is, again, contextualizing what kind of allyship we're talking about. Ultimately, I would say that allyship is everyday actions to foster a particular goal, whether for myself or the person I'm allying myself with. But I would say that allyship in the context that we're using it is definitely intended to create an inclusive and engaging culture. And why those terms are things that make people's sphincters tighten, I do not know. To me, inclusive is good. Engaging is good. Multicultural diversity is good. Just there was an interview I saw years ago with Ice-T on the Arsenio Hall show, I think, and he was talking about how people often come up to him and they're like, "Oh, I love everything you do, man," and he's like, "You shouldn't do that, because if you're thinking what I'm thinking, then only one of us is thinking." And I loved that. I thought that was a ridiculously cool thing to say. But it's true in the sense, fuck, where was I going? My brain just stopped. I was like, ooh, talk about Ice-T. You love Ice-T. Shit. Well, poop. Yeah, I don't know where I was going. One could assume that a black queer woman would, in essence, see what I did there, have a more difficult life experience than a heterosexual white male. Absolutely. And that's one of my favorite things that the conservatives do to prove they don't understand the concept, is they're like, "Oh, I wish I was a disabled, schizophrenic transgendered black woman in a wheelchair. You're like, dude, are you serious? Like, what you're basically talking about is that in our attempt to try and level the playing field, we're making life a little less awful for someone who has all of the non-privilege associated with them from a society, our current society's perspective, pretending like that's the person who won the fucking lottery. Like, wow, you don't understand this at all. Yeah, hetero white male, especially from a good economic background, and neurotypical. Add in all of the cisgender, all of the words that sort of describe what we built up as our de facto standard. This is what people do, and then from there we take away every step of the way. So I'm poor, so that's a little bit taken away from me. I'm weird, that's a little bit taken away from me, but I'm still a lot of other good things, so I have a lot of privilege at play. The more adjectives that you have that lead you away from this imagined societal norm, the more power you lose and the more privilege you lose. My whole thing is I don't think that I should be privileged. I think that the privileges I enjoy should be for everyone. Intersectionality. Intersectionality. Sorry. I kind of I thought there was 2 new comments, but yeah, intersectionality. One of the great complaints about second wave feminism was that it wasn't intersectional. It was a feminist movement designed to give equality to white women. And then, black women were hushed up. And so third wave feminism is an intersectional feminism. And it's, I hate to say it to the right-wing chuds in the world, but turns out the feminists and the people of color tend to be the ones that help us recognize where our movements aren't doing enough and where our attitudes aren't changed enough. So yeah, where second wave feminism made some serious strides for white women and trickle down benefits to all women, but nowhere near the same level of improvement in the quality of life for people who were people of color or people who were not heterosexual, all of that other stuff. The right wing is having a movement, all right, bowel. Yeah, well, they always do. And that's not fair. Like, I don't think that the right wing is evil. I think the farther you go down the right wing is bad. And likewise, probably the farther you go down, or at least when you go down the path on the left that leads to authoritarianism, the tanky thing, both of those are bad. But I don't think a right wing perspective is a bad thing, as long as it's tempered either by personal responsibility or by a society that says, hey, don't do these things. And I don't think, as a leftist, I honestly don't think I'm that terribly different than a lot of people who would consider themselves to be far more right-wing than I am. There's key differences, but they're really not that kind of thing. Right-wing or left-wing authoritarian is a thing in both / all. Absolutely. And that's the interesting thing about left-wing authoritarianism is, to me, name 3 things leftists and rightists agree on. Well, it depends entirely on what you're talking about. I would speculate that John Q. Public would probably agree on the following 3 things. Abortions make sense. Free speech is good within, certain controls, and we should be allowed to live meaningfully worthwhile lives. Meaning we should, not be constantly struggling just to survive. There is common ground. There absolutely is. And I think a lot of people who identify as conservatives are not actually conservatives. I think a lot of the people who identify as conservatives are mistaking what they think they're getting from a conservative leadership as being more of like a sock dem kind of thing, and then not understanding those terms. When I say that, what I mean is, the constant thing of people who are promoting the idea that, conservatism good, and you're like, dude, you are not a property owner. You are not a wealthy industrialist. You are getting the shit end of the stick. Why are you doing this? And the idea is, well, one day I will be. You know what I mean? Like, people vote against their interests because they don't really understand their interests. Pardon me. Huh. And again, what do I know? I'm just some filthy socialist from Western Canada. A lot of leftists aren't really caring, sharing optimists. Definitely. They're the whole like tanky movement. People don't seem to understand that there are authoritarian leftists, and there are people who are very racist on the left, and people who will use leftist talking points to justify bad behavior on all kinds of stuff. I am by no means perfect. I'll let that sink in a moment. But what I try to do is I try to live my values. And my values are, everyone should be happy. How do you get everyone happy? Well, you make sure they're taken care of. So I do things like, last week I had a few extra bucks, and I email transferred a couple of friends of mine just out of the blue. I sent them $25 and was like, hey, just wanted to say I love you. And these were not, I didn't pick like, my super close group of friends or whatever. These were people that are in my circle, and that I just thought, you know what? For whatever reason, their name jumped out at me, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. I'm not perfect. I know it comes as a huge shock to me too. And more so to my parents, who were certain that I'm the perfect child. Maybe not. I joke though, to go back to sort of what I was talking about with privilege. Here's a classic example. And I'm sure I've told this story before, but when I was a kid, 18 years old, I was renting this place with my buddy Ian, and we were both insomniacs, and it was a couple blocks down from a 7-Eleven. And this is, I'm old, so this is back in the day where they had stand-up video games in a 7-Eleven. And the one they had there was Pit Fighter, which was a really stupid game. There was a punch, kick, and I think it was jump. And if you pressed all three, you did like the super attack. And it was cool because it was like a 3-dimensional board. Or, yeah, I guess it would be 3-dimensional-ish. It was left, right, up, down. Yeah, so that's not, well, I guess, yeah, it's 3-dimensional because you could jump. Anyways, babble, not important shit. And we were both insomniacs, so we would go to the 7-Eleven at like 3 in the morning and just play video games because we had nothing else that was going on. And it was fun. And quite often, because I grew up in a community that was fairly middle class. Lower middle class, but still fairly middle class. Surrounded by upper class neighborhoods. But it was a fairly middle class neighborhood. And invariably, if you looked at a 1-week time frame, there would always be some point where a cop would show up and hassle us. And they didn't hassle us the way that other people get hassled, that is awful and brutal. They hassled us in the way that the white folks get hassled. So we'd be playing these video games, we'd go for a smoke, and cops would roll up and they'd be like, how long have you been here? We'd be like, I don't know, like an hour. We're playing video games. Oh, yeah? Because the Rogers video just got robbed by people that look like you. Now, the Rogers video by me must have been robbed on a weekly basis, because I literally all the time heard this from these cops. Different cops all the time. I don't know why they chose Rogers video, but there was a Rogers video right by where we were, and it would get robbed apparently like on the daily by people who looked like me and my friend. Now, me at the time, I was about 130 pounds and as tall as I am, so very, very skinny with this big floopy hair. And my buddy was the same height as me, and he was 300 pounds and a metalhead. And there were no two people who looked like us in the whole community, let alone at 3 a.m. out and about. My initial reaction when I first encountered this was fear. Cops would say this shit, and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. There's no way we didn't rob the Rogers video. How could anyone else look? By the time, a couple months went by, the last time that it happened, actually, it was right before I moved, and cops show up. They someone just broke into the Rogers video, and I was like, well, you need to arrest us. And the cop was like, what? Well, you need to arrest us. There's no way. There's two people that look like him and I that are not him and I in this neighborhood at this time. And if someone just broke into Rogers video and stole all their money, obviously it was us. It has to have been us. You need to arrest us. And the cops like sort of sputter, and they're like, well, we're going to let you off with a warning. And I'm like, a warning for breaking and entering and then robbery? Like, I don't fucking think so. Nothing happened of it. That is an example of white privilege. The fact that I didn't actually get arrested, maced, and beaten half to death, or taken out to a lonely Saskatchewan road and left for dead, that is white privilege. But growing up, I didn't know that other people's experiences were different than mine. I just knew that I had these were bad experiences, and they felt terrible. And it's only when you listen to other people as an ally, and start to understand that some people's experiences are even worse than yours. And maybe in some certain circumstances, my experiences are worse than theirs or whatever, but that my experience is not the totality of the universe. That was a real growing thing, right? So when I say I try to live my values, I try to be a person who's good and who tries to, whether it's through words or deeds, tries to make sure that the people around me who don't have the same privilege as me, that I protect that, and that I try to fight for that for them. I'm also getting old, and that's a bit of a struggle. I'm 48 years old, and the idea of early in COVID, I went and stood up at a Black Lives Matter protest that was talking about a school here in town where there was some pretty sketch stuff that was being done. And at this point, my brain is empty, and I don't recall what the sketch stuff was, but it was it was a Catholic school, and there was a bunch of people who were speaking in a megaphone, and they were talking about their own experiences, and their own experiences were awful. And sometimes just that little tiny bit of awful, so that if I was a classmate of theirs at the time, I wouldn't have even figured out that it was awful. And sometimes it was downright awful. All of them were unacceptable, and all of them, including the situation that had resulted in this protest, all of them required ownership and admission by the Catholic School Board to say, you know what, we didn't nail it, and we need to do better. To me, that would be allyship. I'm not going to get anything out of standing there. I might wind up getting in a fight because there was people across the street using all kinds of nice words to describe us. And they were there the whole time, and the cops were there to keep us apart and stuff. And that really bugged me, because it was like, dude, we're literally here to talk about, making changes to the way that you're running this organization so that people don't feel like shit. Why is that a problem? We weren't, your Black Lives Matter, you're going to burn down the city. No, didn't burn down the city. Didn't burn down anything. I mean, I had a cigarette. That's about it. That's the only thing I burnt. That's the only thing that got burnt, was people smoking cigarettes and weed. It's stupid to sit there and be like, these people are going to destroy the world, and I need to stand against them. Now, where was I going? Today's my brain's not good today. But I was talking about me and my buddy Ian and the cops and privilege, and I brought up I got nothing. I don't know. Maybe it's time for me to pause, and then when I get back, it's probably time for humiliations. Chat is quite quiet, with exception of my boy, I Am Canadian. But if the people that are watching, which I believe there's still a couple of people that are not just I Am Canadian, feel free to chime in. I'm going to take a quick pause. I'll be back in about like 5 minutes. And if there's stuff you guys want to talk about, type it into chat. We'll chat. It'll be good. And if not, it'll be time for my humiliations, wherein on a weekly basis I sing karaoke songs that I probably should not sing, it's humiliating. So, yeah, think about topics if you want to have talk. Otherwise, I'll be back. Well, either way, I'll be back. Okay. Alright. I have returned. And yeah, so chat, is there anything you wanted me to talk about? Is there anything else I wanted to talk about before I forget? I was going to talk about the whole Roe v. Wade thing, but I don't really have, like, a week ago that would have been better. I keep wanting to do like a deep dive into the whole semen retention thing, but have not. Probably not that interested in doing it. All right, well, in that case, since chat's not popping up with stuff, I guess it's time for my weekly humiliations. And then that'll probably be that. So yeah, I do this as a thing because I lack the ability not to humiliate myself on a regular basis. So today I'm going to sing a couple of songs. I'm going to sing Minnie the Moocher, and then I'm going to sing American Jesus by Bad Religion. And if you want me to sing anything else, now's the time, chat. I cannot guarantee I will do it because I may not know the song. But if I know it, sure, why not? All right. So let's do that. And we'll do that. Chat's not saying nothing, so I'm just probably the only person that's paying attention right now. I'm okay with that. So I'm going to sing some American Jesus. I don't need to be a global citizen because I'm blessed by nationality. I'm a member of a growing populace. We enforce our popularity. There are things that seem to pull us under and there are things that drag us down. But there's a power and a vital presence that's lurking all around. We've got the American Jesus, see him on the interstate. We've got the American Jesus, he helped build the president's estate. I love this song. Not really a big Bad Religion guy. I like my punk rock a little nastier, but it's just a good song. I feel sorry for the Earth's population, cause so few live in the USA. At least the foreigners can copy our morality. They can visit, but they cannot stay. Only precious few can garner the prosperity. It makes us walk with renewed confidence. We got a place to go when we die, and the architect resides right here. We've got the American Jesus, bolstering national faith. We've got the American Jesus, overwhelming millions every day. He's the farmer in the fields, the force the army wields, expression of the faces of the starving millions, the power of the man, the fuel that drives the clan. He's the motive and the conscience of the murderer. He's a preacher on TV, the formatter that's written on the big computers and nuclear bombs. The kids with no moms, and I'm fearful that he's inside me. Yeah, we've got the American Jesus, see him on the interstate. We've got the American Jesus, exercising his authority. We've got the American Jesus, bolstering national faith. We've got the American Jesus, overwhelming millions every day. Yeah! One nation, under God. 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 All right. I kind of feel like I want to do another song. So let's just see what I can find. Probably not going to sing some Mariah Carey or Rocking Around the Christmas Tree by Kelly Clarkson. Probably not happening. Let's see. Is chat saying anything? Better check. No, chat doesn't care. Did I do Start Wearing Purple before? I don't think I did. Maybe this was bad. We'll find out. I can't remember if the quality on this was crappy. Start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. So, yeah, ha! Start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. I know you since you were 20. I was 20 and thought that some years from now a purple little lady will be perfect for dirty old and useless clown. So yeah, ha, start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. I know it all from Diogenes to the Foucault, from Lazarus to Passepartout. Fuck, I don't know. That's words I don't know. Start wearing purple, wearing purple. La da 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 da. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. So why don't you start wearing purple? Why don't you start wearing purple? Start wearing the purple for me now. Party. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. So vio, vio, violetta, etta. I don't know the words. So yeah, start wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. Alright, that was fun. But I think I'm fucking done. Yeah. Chat's quiet. Life's quiet. Seems like a good time for me to go. You guys have a good week. I will probably be back next weekend unless I am hungover, which does not seem likely given that we have a raging pandemic and it's highly transmissible. So there you go. I hope everyone has a good night, good day, good whatever, and